I'm trying to be mindful not to cross my arms. My wife's pointed out a few times that I look mean up here, sitting up here, I look like I'm mad. So I'll try not to do that as much this time. So when you see me, just laugh at me because I'm going to laugh too. But I am Jared Llano. I'm running for sheriff here in Llano County. I currently work for the city of Llano. I'm a patrolman there for the city of Llano. Prior to that, I began my law enforcement career here in the city of Llano, the county of Llano. I've worked for Sheriff Blackburn. I parted ways with Sheriff Blackburn, and I took my services down to the Texas-Mexico border, and I worked for a sheriff's office on the Mexican border. Since then, I've obviously returned where I hold my position now here as patrolman for the city of Llano. With that being said, I have my wonderful wife Tiffany here and my wonderful daughter Adeline. She's 9 months old. Those are the lights of my life. That's why I'm running. I'm running for that generation. I want to be the sheriff for her generation, not really for mine, but for hers. With that being said, some of the issues that I think we should talk about. Patrol. I would like to create patrol sectors here in the county. Right now, I don't believe the county's being covered the way it should be covered. I'd like to create patrol sectors and utilize the officers and the manpower that we have. Especially you guys up here in town. If someone's not already up here, assigned up here, it can be 20-30 minutes before someone gets to you guys. And that's, in my opinion, that's unacceptable. We've got to work on that. One of the other things that we've got to do is we need to train a little bit better. We need to spend some more money on training. We need to spend some more time on training. You're required, as a patrolman, you're required 40 hours every training cycle, every 2 years to get that, and that's the bare minimum. I don't believe in the bare minimum. Training is very important for the job that we do. Everyone's seen the news and seen everything that's happening in the news with police officers making poor decisions or questionable decisions, and I believe that's due to a lack of training. We need to do a lot better training. We need to send some guys to some specialized trainings to perform the duties that they're assigned to do, and we need to host some more trainings. We need to host trainings here in the county. That'll save us some money. We can use some training coordinators here. I'd like to assign a training coordinator that's responsible for that. In the past, we've had officers that have missed their 40 hours. That's had to be reassigned to the jail and that type of thing. There should be someone that should be assigned to that to make sure that doesn't happen. You're having to pay for an officer that's not going to be on the street now because he missed his training cycle. I think training was, like I said, one of the second big point of mine, and along with retention. Our budget, we spend lots of money on the biggest line item on the budget is salaries. Salaries is the biggest line item on the budget. With that being said, they're not paid very well compared to the other neighboring counties. The county here is the lowest paid patrolman in the county. That really shouldn't be the case. When you have low pay, as you know, you're going to have a low retention problem. Retention is going to be an issue when you don't pay very well. So what you're doing is it's costing you twice as much because you're having to hire someone, you have to buy them uniforms, you have to train them, you have to put them through an FTO program, which is a field training officer program. You're spending all that time on budgetary issues and items, and you're not getting your return on your investment because once they get trained, they can now take their services and go somewhere else as a trained officer. So we need to do a better job of recruiting officers that have a vested interest in our community. I would like to see more people that want to be part of our community, that have come here, they want to raise a family here, they want to be part of this. They're not just taking the first job offer that they find. In turn, what that's going to do is going to give a more responsive and a more community-oriented department. We're a very small rural community here. We have conservative values here, and as your sheriff, I'm looking to uphold those values. Thank you, and I'm Jared Llano. I'm running for sheriff. I appreciate your vote on March 1st.
My name is Jack Barrington. I'm a resident of Kingsland. My wife and I decided in 1986 to buy a lake place because we were fortunate enough to have a little extra money. In 1988, there was no doubt in my mind that we wanted to live in Llano. I was a DEA agent at the time, and I wanted my kids to grow up in Llano County and go to Llano schools, which they did. It was probably one of the best decisions I ever made in my life. Currently, I guess I'm the only one that is not an officer at the time. I'm a U-Haul distributor. I have a U-Haul dealership in Kingsland. Let me give you a little bit about my history, though. This picture right here is me as a Texas Highway Patrolman at age 22, 47 years ago. I started my career with Texas DPS, was a patrolman for 3 years, was fortunate enough to see an advertisement on TV, said U.S. Sky Marshal. My partner said, well, you ought to do that. You could travel. And I said, well, that looks pretty good. I put in for the Border Patrol and U.S. Sky Marshal. Fortunately, U.S. Sky Marshal called first, or I'd probably be out on the border chasing illegal aliens. I did 13 months traveling with the U.S. Sky Marshal. I traveled internationally and across the nation. I was the most powerful agent ever conceived by the U.S. government. And the reason why is, we were flying overseas and over different states, they gave us dual power. One of them was commissioned as a U.S. Deputy Marshal, and the other one was a U.S. Customs agent, so that you could intervene and arrest people or do what you need to do internationally and or anywhere in the United States. After 13 months, I was promoted to U.S. Customs agent, and I was stationed on the border. Most of our job at that particular time was to stop smuggling, and at the time, of course, the major problems with smuggling, as it is now, is narcotics. In 1973, President Richard Nixon decided to start the war on drugs, which is still continuing to my knowledge. He created the Drug Enforcement Administration, and he took customs agents and the Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs and made DEA. From 1972 to 1975, I was stationed on the border in Texas, and then I moved to Austin in 1975, where I was a U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration agent, and retired in 1997, and currently have the U-Haul dealership, as I said. Let me give you a couple of ideas about what I think a sheriff needs to be. First of all, a sheriff needs to be high visibility. He needs to be able to be accessible to the public. He needs to be able to talk to people in his county, find out what the problems are so that he can solve them one at a time. That also means that we need to be more professional in the sheriff's office. I had a sheriff tell me, he said, you need to not think about a sheriff's department. You need to be talking about a sheriff's office. I learned one thing being for the government. The government has different names, like the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Well, I didn't know it, but the Drug Enforcement Administration, I'm getting one, the Drug Enforcement Administration has hired a bureau. Well, that made us feel real good, but we were still hooked up with the FBI. I do believe in Kingsland, we've got horrible drug problem in our county. Kingsland, of course, is no rent, low rent, and we're going to have more problems there, and that seems to be where most of our resources are. I believe that living in Kingsland, I'm going to know more about how to solve that problem. But quite honestly, the drug problem that we have is our problem. It's not the sheriff's office problem. It's everybody's problem. You have to be able to say, I don't want this problem here. I want this problem out. And we, as a county, as a group of people, decide we're going to do what's necessary to get this out of our county. And yes, I've been trained in how to deal with narcotics. The main way to deal with narcotics is you come to me, I come to you, we deal together, and we deal with that problem, whatever the problem is, drugs or whatever. Thank you for your time.
I'm Bill Blackburn. I'm the current sheriff here. And all what they're talking about is my responsibility and has been for 8 years, or going on 8 years. I moved to Llano County in 1980 as a state game warden. I started as a warden in 1972 down on the coast, Aransas Pass, Texas. And believe me, that's on the coast. But they talk about working drugs and had experience on the coast. I've worked Lake Falcon many times. I've worked Lake Amstead, and I've worked on the border. Jack's probably got me a lot on experience as far as drug enforcement goes. But I've been a law enforcement officer in Llano County continuously for 36 years. I felt it was my responsibility to help this county because I care about this county. I care about the people in it. I know a lot of people in it. I know a lot of people down here. You know, I'm old enough, I don't have to do this job. But the reason I do this job is because I think I can help with the law enforcement in this county, and I have a personal connection to a lot of people in this county, just the community. First thing that made me feel good when we drove down here this morning is seeing the lake up. I know what the lake means to this community in particular. And I know a lot of people in this community. I know where the problems are in this community. They're my problems too, believe me. We have one, I'm not gonna say who it is, we have one individual in this community that is as much a pain in my butt as you use yours.
Yes, brother.
That was subtle.
Yeah, you kind of hit that on the head. But we are working on him. He is out right now currently on 5 different bonds, 3 of them felony. To let y'all know, and we have been talking to the federal people about getting him moved out. We are trying our best. But there are some other individuals that we've had in this community that we have helped y'all with. I can't say there aren't, and I'm sorry that name came up, but it did. As far as training goes, Jared talked about training. Yes, we do training. We get a lot of free training because we go through other agencies. We go through the Texas Association of Counties, and we get lots of free training. Jill and Sonny McAfee, the district attorney, and his wife have offered us a lot of free training that we have taken advantage of. We have hosted it, and not only do we get free training, we get free slots when we host or reduced amount on slots. And for our officers, and we have done this training. I don't know whether you came to it, but we put on an alert training, which is basically what it is, first response to an active shooter. We had, I don't know how many agencies come to it. It was put on by DPS, and we sponsored that. It is held at the school in Llano. We have put on the MHMR class, mental health class, and I have about 5 or 6 officers that are certified mental health officers. It was offered to everybody. We catch Barrington, Llano, Horseshoe Bay. Some of these guys are San Marcos that came for the MHMR training. We held them at the training in Buchanan at our annex over there because we have a nice big room. You know, as far as my experience goes, being a sheriff is less about law enforcement than it is with dealing with people. This morning, I'll give you for instance, I had 8 phone calls before 8:30 this morning. And that's not unusual for me to have phone calls, trying to solve disputes with people that I know, because I've been here such a long time. I'll remain your sheriff for another 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to start off, and hopefully I don't sound like an auctioneer. Whenever I'm nervous, I talk fast, so I'm hoping you pay attention. That's the gift of gab that I've got from my father. I have moved to Llano County 1977. I grew up in Llano County. I grew up in Kingsland. I attended Llano ISD. I graduated in 1987. After graduation, I enlisted in the Air Force Reserve, and I served in the Air Force Reserve until 1991. I've had a passion about law enforcement ever since I was in the 6th, 7th grade. I was 11 years old, and I had the opportunity to finally to go to the academy and in 1996 and begin my career in a place that I have a passion about. I worked for Llano County. Nathan Garrett was a sheriff at the time. He gave me the opportunity to work for him. I learned a lot from that man. He would not ask you to do something that he wouldn't do himself. I have that same ethic. If my officers are out there working, I'm out there working too. You don't work for somebody, you work with them. That's how you get the job done. I worked for Llano County up until 2009. Right now, I'm working for the Llano Police Department, and I work for Llano ISD as a truancy officer. I'm a patrol officer for Llano Police Department. I've had my education, you know, like Mr. Lotta said, we have to have continuing education. Mine is current where it needs to be. And I believe a lot of training needs to be done for our officers to help with us performing our jobs We have a lot of officers that are doing patrol that needs to be utilized in other areas, that they have special jobs. Mine at the time was sexual assault investigator, crimes against children. They utilized me in a position where I needed to be. That's what we need to do. We need to restructure some of the sheriff's department. I don't want to go in there and lay anybody off. I want to restructure and get those officers in the areas that they have special training in. We've had a lot of issues with trying to get coverage for Llano County. As I'm on patrol, I can hear officers working Kingsland. A lot of it is Kingsland. I hear calls in Tao. They're having to rush from Kingsland to Tao to coverage, to the West End, to Horseshoe Bay. Where are all the officers? You know, they're always in Kingsland. And I understand Kingsland is a big problem, but we need to start distributing our officers out where they need to be to get more coverage, a quicker response time, and not to mention you don't jeopardize the public by having to go on a code 3, which is lights and sirens, going to a call where you jeopardize the public, you jeopardize your family, you jeopardize the officer, and then you got liability issues. You need to spread out your coverage. And then my other thing is, and some issues that we need to do, is if you have problems in certain areas of your county, you can work with Llano PD, you can work with Horseshoe Bay, you get a group of officers together, you start targeting your problem areas. You just don't patrol through the neighborhood, you start targeting it, and you're either going to get compliance from the people that are causing the problems, or they're going to eventually move. So that's one thing that I want to try to work with other agencies and trying to get like a little, not really a task force, but a group of officers that we can hit and target these areas and make it a little bit easier for some of these communities while you have your other officers patrolling and doing what they need to do. You know, we have a lot of issues right now with trying to keep officers hired. They come and go. They come to Llano County. They get trained, just like Mr. Llano said. You pay for all the training, the money, the clothing, and all that, and they move. You need to give them an incentive to stay, because a lot of people that move here want to stay, and they want to live here and work for this area. So there's a lot of areas that we need to go over, and there's too much to talk about right now. But I want to address those. If you have any questions for me at the end, I'll be more than happy to address those questions for you. If there's anything else I can do that brings light, like you have problems in areas, bring them to our attention. We don't know you have a problem unless you call. I get calls 4 or 5 days later whenever there's a burglary and they're wanting us to do something. So the community is going to have to be involved as well. So just give me a call anytime. You can email me on my Facebook or send an instant message. I just got into that, so I'm ignorant to Facebook. But instant message me and I'll be more than happy to talk to you.
I think it's still morning, isn't it? It's good to see everybody here. Good morning. I've talked to some of you, and I'm very glad that y'all came out. This is a very important situation. Sheriff for Llano County is obviously a very important position. And so, with that being said, I'm going to tell you that there's a lot of ways to serve your community. One of those ways that would be a great honor would be to serve as Sheriff of Llano County. I'm James Schilling, and I'm asking for your vote March 1st, 2016 for Sheriff of Llano County. I've lived in Llano County for over 23 years. I'm married to Tana Osborne, who's a teacher at Llano Elementary. We have 6 children, and we live in Valley Spring, which is in the northwest part of the county. As a family, we're involved in church, 4-H, and rodeo. I am a 2nd generation law enforcement officer, a 4th generation Texan, and I proudly call Llano County my home. Experience is one of my best assets. I have worked over 22 years in law enforcement. 21 of those years I spent working for the Llano Police Department. There I spent 5 years working as a patrolman, 2 years working as sergeant, and 14 years working as chief of police. Currently, I am a deputy with the San Saba County Sheriff's Department. And I'm gonna take a little intermission right here and tell you, you talk about Llano County and not being able to cover because of people. Llano County has a little under 1,000 square miles in it. San Saba County has a little over 1,000 square miles in it. Llano County has, I think, about 30 law enforcement deputies. San Saba County has 5. Whenever you're working, you're it. You can be 45 to 50 minutes from a call. And so I understand the need for patrol. Fortunately, Llano County has the luxury that you can have 4 or 5 people maybe working. And you can place folks where they need to be, or where they would more apt to be needed, and give yourself a chance. I'm getting the 1 minute time here. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to, not only do I have that experience, but also, to my credit, I have my Master Peace Officer certification, I have my Peace Officer Instructor certification, and I have my Mental Health Peace Officer certification. I believe that with those things in mind, my experience, my time as supervisor and management and training, I believe that makes me the best candidate for Sheriff of Llano County. Down to it. Some of the goals I have for Llano County are to improve the communication between the citizens of Llano County and the Sheriff's Department, the other entities of the county, and the surrounding areas. I want to be, as sheriff, my department would be tough on crime, especially drugs, drugs is what causes all of our problems just about. Lastly, I would say that I would be I would be fiscally responsible with taxpayer dollars. As chief of police, I worked on many budgets over 14 years, plus a couple of times being interim chief. And I would tell you that as sheriff, I would ensure that your tax dollars for Llano County were spent wisely. Thank you.